Good morning, and welcome to the CalCAP Lender Roundtable, focusing on the California Air Resources Board Truck Loan Assistance Program. Today from CalCAP, we have our Executive Director, Renee Webster-Hopkins, Deputy Executive Director, Janie Davis, Managers Doreen Smith and Isabel Becerra, Analysts Lauren, Christina, and Leandre. We also have our colleagues from the Air Resources Board with us. We will all be available to answer your questions. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type it in the questions box on your GoToWebinar toolbar. Thank you all for joining us today. Our agenda includes CalCAP CARB program updates, CARB compliance, and a discussion about potential changes to the CalCAP CARB program. We will also be requesting your responses to several questions regarding the proposed program changes and the effect these changes may have on your institution's lending practices. We appreciate your participation. If you have any questions as we go, please use the chat feature. We'd like to start by providing an update on the program statistics for the CARB program. As of January 4th, 2020, total CalCAP CARB enrollment since 2009, 25,547 loans for $1.7 billion. This was for 26,234 trucks, 620 retrofits, and 628 trailers. The total CalCAP CARB contribution since 2009 is $118.8 million. Total CalCAP CARB claims since 2009, 1,621 claims for $57 million. In 2019, total CalCAP CARB enrollment was 4,472 loans for $314.7 million. That was for 4,595 trucks and 142 trailers. In 2019, the total CalCAP CARB contributions were $12.8 million. In 2019, 422 claims were paid for a total of $15.3 million. Now we'd like to go over a couple CalCAP CARB program reminders. The Truck Loan Assistance Program supports loans to small business owners with fleet size of 10 or fewer trucks to purchase trucks driven primarily in California to comply with the state's engine emission standards. The current CalCAP CARB contribution thresholds are a 14% contribution for the first $500,000 in total contributions, a 7% contribution for $500,001 to $1.5 million in total contributions, and a 4% contribution for contributions over $1.5 million. Lenders can submit their loan enrollments via our web-based portal at the link listed here. The CalCAP CARB program now allows the cost of warranties on eligible equipment to be included in the loan financing. Electric trucks and lighter vehicles with a gross vehicle weight of 14,001 to 26,000 pounds are eligible for CalCAP CARB loan enrollment. We would also request that you please share the CalCAP CARB program borrowers webpage with your borrowers. The link to the borrower page is here, as well as we've provided you the link for the program summary, lender manual, and loan enrollment forms. And we also encourage you to attend as many CARB one-stop events as you're able to. The 2020 event list will be coming soon, and we've put the link here where the Air Resources Board will have these posted. Okay, and now we'll remind you of these important CalCAP CARB compliance updates. The truck and bus regulation has been in effect, and vehicles must currently meet compliance deadlines. Starting January 1st, 2020, the DMV began verifying compliance with the regulation in order to register vehicles based on the schedule. 2010 or older vehicles, 2009 or older engines must be replaced based on the schedule in this table. CalCAP staff advises lenders do not enroll loans for any vehicle that will fall out of compliance prior to the maturity of the loan. CARB currently has the ability to place a DMV registration hold on a vehicle if it does not meet regulatory requirements. The 2020 change is the DMV verification and denial of registration. Trucks that meet the regulatory requirements will be able to register with the DMV. By January 1st, 2023, all trucks and buses must have 2010 model year engines with few exceptions. Lenders should be aware of the ongoing CARB compliance requirements and deadlines when reviewing loans for truck purchases. Again, CalCAP staff advises that lenders not enroll loans for any vehicle that will fall out of compliance prior to the maturity of the loan. The update on the CalCAP CARB interagency agreement. The agreement was approved by the CPCFA board on December 10th, 2019. It is currently pending final execution by the Air Resources Board and the Department of General Services. The key updates are $48 million in new funding, proof of California DMV registration required at the time of loan enrollment, and there will be an updated borrower certification which will be sent out to you and posted after final approval of the agreement. Are there any questions or comments on the information we just provided before we move forward with our discussion questions?
We have a question. Hi, Jennifer. You have a question?
Yeah, so you require the registration prior to doing the submission. How long do we have to do the submission? Is that still 2 weeks of funding from funding?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that was my question.
We have another comment. It says, providing proof of registration prior to enrollment within 15 days is not realistic. Okay, we have another question. It says, what actually is proof of registration? This will not be possible in many cases within the 15-day window. We have another Are there any other comments? We have another question. We have another question that came in that says, does the application for registration count as proof?
Hi, this is Jessica Johnson from the California Air Resources Board. In discussing this change, we are under the understanding that somebody purchasing a truck receives a temporary registration from DMV upon purchase and taking delivery of the vehicle, so that they would have that in hand when they pick up the vehicle. We'd be interested to know if you have a different experience there. But I think that for our purposes, that the temporary registration that's issued until the final paperwork is sent by DMV would be acceptable.
And this is Renee. I guess I have a question for those of you that have commented on this. I'd like to hear what your usual experience is right now. What kind of turnaround you typically experience before you are copied on the approval of the registration through DMV? What time frame usually lapses? If anyone who provided comments or anyone else on the phone can comment to that.
We have a comment here that says 30 to 90 days.
For which is that?
We have another comment that says, when will you be implementing the change of proof of registration? Some dealers do not issue temporary registrations. I would suggest 60 days, as relying on any state DMV is challenging. We also have another comment that says 21 to 30 days at the earliest for a turnaround time of receiving some sort of proof of processing.
So this is all very helpful feedback. This is Renee. There was a question about when this is going to take effect, and if we could go back to the one slide that shows that this is going to be right there. So thank you. So these two requirements at the bottom of the slide, the proof of registration and the updated borrower certification, will become in effect at the time that the interagency agreement is finally executed by the Air Resources Board and DGS. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of control over the timing on that. I would expect that those dates wouldn't happen for 2 to 3 months. So that's actually, I think, very helpful given your feedback. As we go into the next portion of this roundtable, we're going to be discussing a lot of issues associated with the program and potential program improvements. And what I'd like to do is to invite all of you, well, at the end, let me say, at the end of the webinar, we're going to ask and invite all of you to provide written comments as well. And to this point as well, I'd like you to include commentary and suggestions about how we could best implement this requirement, because what we will need ultimately in order to maintain a loan enrolled in the program is proof that the truck is enrolled during the while the loan is outstanding, or proof that the truck is registered with DMV. So, you know, if you want to provide suggestions about a sort of a holding period or a conditional enrollment, we're all ears. We want to make sure it's efficient. We want to make sure that you can enroll the loans quickly, and then we also want to make sure that we have an efficient way for you to provide us the proof of permanent registration once you secure it within a timely way. So, again, if you have suggestions about how we can do that, we will be very receptive to make sure that it fits with your business processing and loan origination process. Are there any other questions that have come in before we move on?
We do have another question. It says, what about currently enrolled loans? Will we have to provide proof of registration on those at some point, including time of claim?
We haven't considered that. We hadn't considered requiring any kind of retroactive demonstration of proof if there was a request to extend the loan. We're going to be talking about, you know, potentially including refinances for loan repairs, of truck repairs. It's possible, but again, we hadn't considered that at this point. Right now, the goal is to ensure that any new loans enrolled are accompanied by proof of DMV registration to make sure that the trucks that are being purchased with the loans are indeed compliant with the truck and bus rule.
And we have another question. It says, what opportunities exist in improving the turnaround time at the DMV?
Well, since we don't have representation from DMV on the call, I'll extend sympathies. Again, if that is something that as a lender you are experiencing unreasonable delay in securing documentation that you're on the title, or just simply receiving the documentation that you would expect, we would like to hear your experience so that we can collect it and take it as an ambassador to the DMV if that seems appropriate. I do know that the current administration is very bullish on improving the consumer experience through DMV, and this is actually something that would be good for us to message to them. But we would want to know more definitively what your experience is and what improvements you would like to see occur.
And we have another question. Will title copies of recently transferred titles count as proof of registration?
It sounds like from ARB that would be sufficient.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we would now like to hear specific input from you, our lenders, regarding questions from the California Air Resources Board regarding the program and how possible changes to the program will increase your ability to lend to more borrowers. You may click the raise hand icon to speak, and we will unmute you when it is your turn to speak. You may also type your comments using the question box as indicated on this slide. We will allow everyone who wishes to speak an opportunity. Okay, first question. Would an increase In the CalCAP CARB contribution rate from 4% to 10% increase the number of loans your institution would enroll in the program? And what are some of the determining factors for making a loan with the increased contribution amount?
Hi, Deborah. Deborah? Hi, Gwendy.
Hi, folks. It's Michael Rappaport and Gwendy Brown from Opportunity Fund. We appreciate the opportunity to participate here. I think our estimate of what we would be able to do with a greater contribution to 10% is that our lending for trucking loans would probably increase by about 50% in terms of both dollars and borrowers served. And one of the ways in which we would do that, there would be opportunities for us to reduce down payments, offer more favorable pricing, and other factors that we think will improve the experience with the borrower as well.
Okay.
And because we rely on investors to buy some of our loans, that increased contribution rate will greatly make the investors confident that the loan portfolio has the sufficient coverage that they need, and that'll encourage them to provide us lower cost debt and continue with those loan sales, which just then increases our ability to lend as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. I didn't know I had a question. Did you have a question? Nope.
Okay, I
But
believe.
thanks.
Okay, if you have your hand raised, I believe you do have to click it again if you do not. Yeah. Okay, perfect. To erase it. Okay, there we go. Okay. Hi, Matt.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Matt.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So just to jump at the DMV thing real quick, I think that understanding where the ARB is coming from, however, the minimum standard for enrollment in the program is a 2010 engine. So that has compliance on it indefinitely as far as the on-road truck and bus rule is concerned. So there would never be a problem with whether or not we're enrolling a vehicle that doesn't meet the on-road standards. So that's the first thing. But if you want DMV forms, because it takes the actual borrower to, up to 2 months, let's just call it 60 days, to get his physical registration back from the DMV. In order to drive the truck off of a lot, he has to have some type of temporary operating permit. And the dealer can register the truck for the borrower, or the borrower can bring registration to the dealer in order to release the vehicle. At least that's how we do it as a responsible truck dealer. We don't want people driving trucks off that don't have valid registration. It has to do with taxes. It's all sorts of issues. But there are forms that the DMV has that we as a dealer submit to them that could be easily obtained from a dealership. On used trucks, you would have an application for title or registration along with the declaration of gross vehicle weight and combined gross vehicle weight. The forms are DMV form REG 343, which is the application for title or registration. And then you have registration 4008, REG 4008 from the DMV for the deck of GVWR. These documents are acceptable when it comes to grant programs such as a voucher incentive program, in order to show that the truck has been registered or is on its way to being registered and has the ability to be released from a vehicle. Furthermore, on a new truck, one other item that can be received from the dealership once the truck rolls off of the lot is a form REG 397, which is an application for registration for a new vehicle. So those three forms in and of itself, 397 is only relevant to new trucks, but the other application for title in the GVWR deck is something that could be relatively easily obtained from the dealer once the whole package, the document package is created to sell the truck. And so that should satisfy what you guys are looking for, especially because there's precedent in those documents being acceptable under grant programs administered by the ARB and local air districts. So just on the DMV side of things, I don't know if you guys have any comments on that. I can touch on the higher contribution rate.
So Matt, I think you articulately and in much more detail summarized our thoughts on the process. So if anybody has any concerns with the way you've said it, we'd be interested to know that. But that's basically the approach that we were taking. You said you had other comments on other sections?
I do, and I won't take up too much time. Just to touch on the higher contribution rate. Now, of course, any lender is going to be able to dig a little deeper into the risk pool, knowing that we have some more contribution, padding our entire pool. I do have a slight concern, though, with allowing a minimum 2010 model year engine standard if we're going to up the ante and give it 10%. And I'll tell you why. On the one hand, you have a newer engine, and ARB has pointed to the deterioration rates in 2010 model year engines and later as being pretty significant. The subsequent result of that has been through the, it's misnamed, but the diesel smog check, which was SB 210 or SB 210 from last year, which is now turning into the inspection and maintenance program that ARB has been developing because of this serious deterioration issue. One of the cutoff levels that ARB has, and ARB's there, so I'm preaching to the choir, but for everybody else, this inspection and maintenance rule has a component in it that allows a truck operator to utilize the onboard diagnostics in the engine to upload that data to the ARB in order to be compliant with the inspection and maintenance rule. Now, while the rule is still being promulgated, in fact, it's in very early stages, it probably won't be fully implemented for another couple of years. There's going to be a pilot program taking place soon, and it really hinges on the fact that these engines have the ability to be read and have telematics applied to them and have that information subsequently shared with the ARB for compliance in this rule. Now, the minimum engine standard for OBD is 2013. So from our perspective, we would say if we're going to up the ante on the contribution, we wouldn't want people to be getting into trucks that they would have to be dealing with doing manual interpretations annually, potentially, of their maintenance records to ARB. So that's ease of use. And then also, again, it's a later model year engine, potentially less miles, because one way to quickly drain our reserve pool, although that we don't necessarily loan on high mileage 2010 engine trucks anymore, it would behoove the lenders essentially to not want to get into this older model year equipment. And in fact, many of them probably don't. Then again, I don't want to speak for everyone. So from our perspective, a 10% is definitely going to boost us and it'll let us dig deeper, but it should be coupled with some trade-off on the equipment. That's just my perspective.
Thank you, Matt.
And we just have a response to question 1 that says, we could increase loan production substantially.
Okay.
Okay, no more hands raised for this question.
Okay. Okay, next questions. Would an increase in the CalCAP CARB contribution rate from 4% to 10% expand the number of borrowers eligible for a loan from your institution? And would an increase in the contribution rate allow you to decrease the down payment amount?
We don't have any hands raised, and there are no comments in the question box for this question.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh.
right, they're coming in. It says, for lender question number 2, it would definitely expand the number of borrowers. With more reserve, we can widen the credit window.
Okay.
Okay. Another comment, as we mentioned in our reply to question 1, yes, this would allow us to increase the number of eligible borrowers, including by reducing down payment requirements and providing improved pricing. Another comment, with our model, it would allow less down payment as well. Another comment, the additional reserve helps us offset risk associated with the collateral's loan to value. The reduced risk will allow us to approve more deals with less down payment. We do have a question. It says, can we require truck warranty and include it in the loan amount?
If you would like to require it, you can do that, and you can include it in the loan amount. Yes, that's it. Okay. Okay. What economic factors are contributing to riskier loans or less qualified borrowers?
Hi, you have been unmuted.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, we actually recently conducted a survey of over 200 current borrowers that have their trucks enrolled in ARB regarding just their current business and expectations and concerns for 2020. And what we found is basically that 24% of the people that responded said they were worried about a trucking industry slowdown, 21% about a general economic slowdown, and another 18% about just the ongoing dispute around trade, which, again, we'll see what happens with that one. It sounds like there was some movement yesterday on that particular front. The other things that people told us in that survey is that the cost of ownership of a truck is rising due to a number of factors that I think we all know about here. One is sharp rises in insurance premiums, the predicted increase in diesel costs that's coming up here, the increased cost of steel parts and tires, that's also kind of an adjunct to the whole trade issues that have been going on, the potential costs and risks due to AB5, the gig worker law, and then others cited the ongoing compliance with the air quality regulations. In particular, 18% mentioned those air quality regulations, and 32% mentioned that they were worried about AB5. So I think all of those factors sort of contribute to the concerns that truckers have and the rising ownership, which then creates a situation where less qualified borrowers might be looking at, it essentially means that, more people who might be less qualified and don't understand all this might be applying. But in addition, about 29% of the truckers we surveyed indicated that their business outlook for 2020 is poor or unsure. And we'll share all this data with you after the fact.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a comment for question number 3 that says lower trucking rates across the country, as well as the driver shortage, making it hard for trucking companies to keep their experienced drivers. And I believe we have one more. Hi.
Hey guys, this is Matt from Crossroads. And it would be helpful if everyone could identify themselves just so we know, kind of can get a picture of who's saying what. That would be helpful. Thank you. Besides that, individual lenders, we all have our own credit parameters, and we have a responsibility to not be issuing irresponsible loans. And the reserve pool provides a unique opportunity where, depending on the borrower and the situation, I think that you heard from all the lenders, we're definitely going to be able to dig deeper. And, to point to Opportunities Fund's survey, and that's amazing data and right in line with word on the street that you'll hear out there from almost any small trucking fleet. The fact that these uncertain times cause for, a poor to, cloudy outlook. And I would almost say that almost any small fleet potentially is going to have that outlook when it comes to business in California. The AB5 issue, and depending on the timing of the survey, has had a profound impact on independent single truck owner operators. And as we know, that's the majority of loans that are signed up in this program, and the majority of borrowers where we're going to need to dig deeper on. But the uncertainty surrounding their, ability to stay in business has been more than impactful, to say the least. And I'm sure many of you have been following the fact that a restraining order was issued by a federal judge on New Year's Eve, and subsequently a hearing just took place on Monday for the arguments for preemption, for federal preemption under the F4A. And all signs point to the fact, including a California Superior Court judge ruling in favor of a trucking company that was being sued by the city of Los Angeles for misclassification of its owner operators under the AB5 ABC test. That was also shot down, and the fact that the likelihood of federal preemption was definitely going to be very possible. That, coupled with the fact that in 2018, the ELD kicked in, and we saw spot rates go through the roof because of the driver shortage. And it just so happened to coincide with a little bit of a downtick in manufacturing here in the US because of the tariff uncertainty. So it was a perfect storm that happened. In all likelihood, it wiped away a lot of the fleets that weren't able to operate in this environment in the first place. So there's a good possibility that some of these lenders, or borrowers rather, who have coming out of this, who have weathered the storm, are in a perfect position for some success. So having a higher contribution rate, I think, is great timing. Although I don't think it's as gloom and doom as some trucking fleets might predict. Cargo's still flowing through the ports of LA and Long Beach, despite their best efforts to divert it. And at this point in time, from our perspective, using our responsible lending parameters, as all enrolled preferred lenders do, a higher contribution is going to let us definitely dig deeper, and it might even equate to folks with, falling within our parameters to almost get into a 0% down. You never know. It depends, as we say in the credit business, right?
Okay, thank you, Matt.
We do have comments in response to question 3 from Russell Smith that says, we concur with the Opportunity Fund response, and then also escalating insurance costs are contributing to the default problem.
Okay, thank you.
No more hands raised for this question.
Okay. All right. We touched on this a little, but do you anticipate a recession in the trucking industry? And if so, what data do you rely on to support this?
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, it's Michael and Wendy from Opportunity Fund again. So appreciate the opportunity again. I think there's just general information out there that makes us concerned. We've already talked about it. And again, recession, there's a clear definition of recession in the economic world, but, I'd say that there's a slowdown happening. Much has been made about trucking firm bankruptcies greatly increasing, the freight index and shipment volumes, and even, someone mentioned the Port of Los Angeles. We do see some data that, some of the exports at that port have fallen quite sharply fairly recently. But one of the other things that we look at here at Opportunity Fund is we subscribe to PayNet. PayNet is, a credit reporting agency that kind of collects data on various types of small business loans. They're now actually owned by Equifax, one of the big three credit bureaus in the United States. And a couple of things that we see in their data that indicates that things are a little bit tighter. Number one is that they see lending in the transportation sector, which includes trucking, down about 10% over the course of the last 6 months. And then in addition, over the last 6 months, they show that delinquency rates for loans made under the transportation industry have nearly doubled. They're actually, the 31 plus day delinquency rate in their data is now over 3%, which is the highest it's been since 2012 when we were coming out of the last Great Recession. In addition, PayNet has a tool where they estimate or create a probability of default going forward the next 4 quarters, and that metric has increased 42% year over year between October 1st, 2018 and October 1st, 2019. So these are the signs that we look at that indicate to us that there is some slowing down in the market right now. And all of those numbers I just gave you are specific to California. And again, we'll share all this with you guys after the webinar in our written comments.
Thank you. Nothing else? Okay. Okay, now we would like to know what kinds of repair bills have caused defaults, and if you know what portion of defaults are caused by unaffordable repairs, and how much do repairs typically cost? If we considered making a program change where you could refinance a CARB loan to cover a cost of repairs to avoid a loan going into default, would this be helpful to you? That's kind of why we're asking about the repairs, to kind of get an idea.
Hi.
Hi, it's Opportunity Fund, and absolutely, I think that would be a helpful add. But in addition, we also think that coupled with what we talked about earlier on truckers, going delinquent and having concerns, but even for both repairs as well as just financial hardships in different cases, we think that being able to restructure and add, longer, extending the maturity date of some of these loans in these cases of hardship or repair would really be beneficial to help the borrower get back on track. You know, even though there is a 180-day maturity date extension allowance right now, those loans, because some of them tend to be higher dollar loans, the 6-month extension doesn't provide them quite the relief that they need to actually make it through. And again, based on what we see in our data, we actually looked at all of the loans that we've restructured. We dug into it, and 35% of the repayment challenges that we see are because of repairs, and an additional 45% are caused by financial hardships, another 11% by medical issues, and about 7% due to insurance premiums rising or costs rising. So repairs and financial hardships are the big reasons, and we think one of the things that could help is extending that period of maturity.
And this is Gwendy with Opportunity Fund. I just want to chime in as well, just to say, while I understand the idea of adding repairs as an allowable use, one of the issues we've identified with that is oftentimes a borrower comes to us after they've made those repairs. And so it's not actually, they need to get that truck back on the road as quickly as possible. They're going to find that money as soon as they can, and they may not come back to their lender until that monthly payment is due, and they're in trouble because they've been off the road for a few days, and then they've been out of pocket some thousands of dollars. So we really think that making sure that lenders have the flexibility to work with truckers when they come to us is critical. So in other words, even if you allowed repairs as an allowable use, I think it would miss a lot of the drivers who are struggling, either because their challenge isn't due to repairs or their challenge is due to repairs, but they're dealing with it and then coming to their lender after the fact. So that's why we really think that the longer term extension just provides that flexibility for lenders within their responsible lending practices to really respond to the conditions that exist, including the repair challenges.
Okay, thank you.
Then we do have a response to question 5 from Russ Smith that says catastrophic engine failure, usually costing $15,000 or more to remedy. We also have another comment from Mike Boardman that says a refinance or restructure option would be great. We see repairs such as one-box failures that threaten to put a contractor out of business due to the cost of the repair, averaging between $10,000 to $15,000. Also from Mike Boardman, being able to roll the repair amount into a restructure or refinance allows the contractor to stay on the road and the lender the security of keeping the deal secured by CalCAP.
Okay, thank you.
We also have another comment from Alexander. Yes, if you could rewrite a loan to roll in repair costs in a unit would certainly be helpful. Engine overhaul costs can get as high as $50,000. Another comment from Russell Smith on question 5, major accessory failure costing between $8,000 to $15,000, minor accessory failure costing less than $8,000. Sometimes the lower cost ones appear to be more like maintenance issues rather than repair issues, but in light of the illiquid borrow condition have a similar impact. And he also goes on to say all of these defaults also interrupt the borrower's income stream while the truck is off-road.
Okay. All right then, thank you very much to all of you for providing comments today. What we would like to do is encourage you all to submit your written comments, feedback, and any documentation you have to us here at CalCAP, no later than January 23rd. We would like you to include follow-up to 1/16/2020 webinar in the subject line on these emails, so we identify them quickly and keep them all together. We really appreciate you joining us today and providing this feedback, and we'll be discussing all of these things here at CalCAP and with the Air Resources Board, and anything you think of going forward, please let us know. And that's all we have today, so thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to receiving your feedback.